Liberation Movement as the project. What is it? The Women's Liberation Movement is a social struggle which aims to eliminate forms of oppression based on gender and to gain for women equal economic and social status and rights to determine their own lives. This happened during the late 1960s and the 1970s, and it consisted of women's liberation groups, advocacy protests, consciousness raising, feminist theory, and a variety of diverse individual and group actions on behalf of women and freedom. Some of the main events, one of them was publicizing issues like rape and domestic violence through media. Protest against sexism in the media range from putting stickers on saying sexist on offensive advertisement to holding sit-ins at local media outlets, all the way to sabotage of newspaper offices. This approach sometimes crossed the line into offensiveness, as at the 1968 demonstration outside the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City, where activists protested objectification of women by waving derogatory signs like "Up Against the Wall, Miss America." While the event attracted widespread media coverage and launched the myth that feminists burn bras, the approach was alienating. As a result, many activists resolved to stop the in-talk of the new left hippie movement and strive to reach ordinary women across the country. Another main event that happened was the consciousness raising groups. These became an effective way for the women's liberation movement, and it was small groups in local communities where they explored topics such as family life, education, sex, and work from their personal perspectives to get their own opinion out. As they shared their stories, they began to understand themselves in relation to the patriarchal society they lived in, and they discovered their commonalities and felt solidarity. As one said, "I began to see myself as a part of a larger population of women. My circumstances are not unique but can be traced to the social structure." So this is how women realized that they weren't on their own and that they all actually did have opinions and that they could listen to each other. Another main event was legalizing abortions, which was a huge deal during this time. In their campaigns for the legalization of abortion, activists testified before state legislators and held public speak-outs like that one, where women admitted to illegal abortions and explained their reasons for abortion. These events brought abortion out of the closet where it had been hidden, and it brought it out and showed that women do want this and that it is important. It informed the public that most women were having abortions anyways, and that they wanted it to be safe instead of doing it illegally. People spoke from their hearts. It was heartrending. The Speak Out was also used to publicize the largely unacknowledged phenomenon of rape, as activists also set up rape crisis centers and advocacy groups, and lobbied police departments and hospitals to treat rape victims with more sensitivity. To publicize date rape, the annual Take Back the Night March on college campuses was launched in 1982, which comes here in that meeting also. One of the other main events was campaigning against sexual harassment. Activists also defined and campaigned against sexual harassment, which was legally defined as a violation of women's rights in 1980. They also redefined spousal abuse not as a tradition but a crime, lobbied for legal change, and set up domestic violence shelters. The women's health movement set up a new goal of creating a women-centered health system rather than the existing system that was often insensitive to women's needs. And the last major event that happened was contraceptives and birth control, which was important to many women, and they finally were able to speak up about it and get it easily and when they wanted it. The women's liberation movement may not have been recently, but it still affects women today. Today we have services like rape crisis centers, women's shelters, and health clinics due to this women's liberation movement. Also, women have equal access to education, increased participation in politics and the workplace, access to abortion and birth control, resources to aid domestic violence and rape victims, and now we have legal protection of women's rights, thanks to this movement.
Thank you. Any questions for Jessica? All right.